Hey there, I'm glad you're with me today on January the 27th. Today, our readings are, let me tell them to you, it's Genesis 47 and 48, Psalm 25, and Galatians chapter 3. There's 4 chapters there to read from Genesis, Psalms, and Galatians, 3 different places in the Bible. I'm going to tell you in a minute about something that caught my eye as I was reading through Genesis 47 and 48, but first, let me tell you about a man named Larry. I have a friend named Larry. I met Larry many, many years ago, and my friend, when I met him, he was in his late 60s at the time. He'd be probably late 70s by this point here. But Larry was a part of a church I was a part of. He'd come from a different background than I came from. I came from the Midwest. He came from the northeastern coast, really, of the United States, and he had ended up in the same little town that I lived in. Now Larry, he had a different economical background than me as well. He came from a much wealthier background than I came from, and he found himself living in a culture, in a community that was not really like what he had known. Everything he had known was different than here. And Larry could have very easily come into this community. He was a follower of Jesus, a Christian. He could have come in, though, and he could have seen all the differences and all the problems and all the things that weren't quite up to snuff with what he used to know. And he could have been frustrated by it. He could have pointed them out. He could have demanded changes. He could have expected people to bow and bend their will to his. But Larry didn't do that. He could have done a lot of different things, and people wouldn't have faulted him much because of the background he had. But Larry had moved into a community that wasn't his, into a little farming town, and he was living in this place that wasn't what he had come from. And Larry had one goal, one motive. Larry's goal, his motive, was to invest in the next generation. And so this 60s something man, he poured himself into the children's ministry of this church. And he began, every Sunday you would find Larry in the kids ministry of this church. And he would be oftentimes dressed up in some kind of a costume, some kind of a skit, some kind of a thing going on. And he was loving kids, he was investing in parents, and he was helping to shape the lives and the futures of the next generation of this church. It was a beautiful scene, really. Larry became a dear friend to me as I watched his heart for the church to continue far beyond his lifetime. He was not interested in forming things to his own wishes. He wanted to form things to the future kingdom. It was a beautiful picture. As I was reading in Genesis 47 and 48, I was reminded of Larry and my interactions with him and my friendship with him. As I was reading in Genesis 47 and 48 about Joseph's family, and Joseph had a couple of kids, Ephraim and Manasseh, and they were living here in Egypt, and Joseph had his brothers and his father all moved into Egypt, along with their families, their spouses, their children, their property, everything. They all came in, and they all joined together in one place for the first time since Joseph was a boy and was betrayed. The first time they've been together now since he was a boy, he was betrayed. It's been a long time. A lot of things have happened between when he was a boy and this day they're back together again. Imagine, if you will, what Israel, Jacob, and his other sons and their families could have thought coming into a culture that wasn't their own, coming into a place they didn't know, coming into a land that seemed foreign, with customs that seemed very vastly different. They could have demanded, they could have complained, they could have agonized, they could have whined, all kinds of things. Imagine Joseph's family, as they have family that they don't know coming in from somewhere that they've never been. These boys, Ephraim and Manasseh, they've never seen this family before. What could they have done? They could have felt that this is their turf, this is their home, this is their place. They could have rejected their cousins and their family, but that's not what they did. See, what happened is Joseph and his family and Israel and the other sons and their families, they all came together in this beautiful picture of the kingdom of God, where God takes people that have not been together, but they are family by one thing only. They are family by their love of, their following of, their commitment to God and his kingdom. And he brings them together and he merges them and he grafts them into one. At the end of chapter 48, even Israel, he speaks to his son Joseph and he says, I will die soon. This is a rough paraphrase, but he says, I will die soon. But, actually, I'm not going to paraphrase. He says, but God will be with you and will take you back to the land of your fathers. Israel's not concerned about getting things the way he wants them. He's concerned with the next generation. We have a church. Actually, every church is like this, but we have a church where we have people that are older and younger, people who are richer and who are poorer, people who are more educated and less educated, people who have been in the church longer than other people have been in the church. We have people that have been born into the church. They've been here their whole life, people that just showed up a week or two ago. We have people from all kinds of different backgrounds that have all come into one room, and we are all family by virtue of one thing. We follow Jesus. And God has brought us together in a beautiful picture of the kingdom of God, merging us together, grafting us into one, so we can look ahead to the next generation. Don't make it the way I want it. Don't change things to the way I want them. We could all say what Israel says, I'm going to die soon. Really, it doesn't matter how old you are or what your health is like. We all only have a few decades to live. We could all say in the scheme of eternity, we're going to die soon. But God will be with you, next generation. God will be with you, new person to the church. God will be with you, follower of Jesus, and take you back. We would all do well. You would do well if we stop looking to bend things to our will, our convenience, and our image, and we start looking to invest in the next generation of followers of Jesus. I want to encourage you. Begin praying about how you can be a blessing to somebody who's new to the kingdom of God. How can you be a blessing to the children, the teenagers, the college students, the new believers, the new baptized people, the new visitors to our church? How can you be a blessing to them so that they can experience every blessing of God just like you have been able to experience? Pray on that for a little bit and then ask God, what is my next step? Hope you'll join us as we continue to read through the Bible. Until we see you again, you are sent.